reporting on the games you love by people who love to game. The MMO Reporter Network.
I'm here with Mark from Perfect World, and we're going to take a look at Rusty Hearts. So, Mark, can you give us a quick overview of the game and show us around?
Absolutely. Rusty Hearts is a next-generation, free-to-play hack-and-slash dungeon-crawling brawler. It's a lot to say, but what it basically means is, at its core, it harkens back to the old-school style brawlers like TMNT, Final Fight, things where you just get into some dungeons, find some loot, kill some enemies, beat a boss, level up, get your skills, everything like that. So it's like that, very, very fast-paced, really cool cel-shaded, anime-style art design, mixed with all these cool like MMO and social features. You level up your character, you find all this new gear, loot, costumes, there's full guild PvP system, fully robust game, but at its core, hack-and-slash multiplayer dungeon crawler.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So how does the MMO portion of it fit in?
So if you look right here, you'll see this outer hub world, right? So you actually mentioned earlier like Guild Wars 2, where it's very instance, all the action takes place in instances, but there's this outer hub world too. That's where everything happens. If this were a live server right now, you would see everybody else in the world everyone that's playing on this server running around. Everyone in chat, there's full chat, everyone interacts, there's full auction house, you can trade, full guild system with guild levels, guild skills, guild warehouse where people can trade amongst each other. So it's everything like that. We actually refer to it as an MMORPG, not necessarily an MMORPG, because it doesn't have the big, expansive MMORPG world, but it does have all the multiplayer functions, all the social features as well.
So what makes it unique from all the other games out there that have some of the different portions that you talked about before?
It's that first of all, that it's free to play. It's one of the first of its kind of this genre of free to play games, built from the ground up to be that model. Nothing's blocked off from anybody, regardless of their paying status. So anyone can get right in. They can play the game, not have to spend a dime, experience the entire game, look at a ton of gear, loot, and everything like that. Just as any payer would. The cool thing about it, though, is that it focuses on really fast-paced, really dynamic combat. You can have a party of up to 4 people. There are 3 characters you can choose from the start, with more to come. They kind of occupy their own classes. They all sort of supplement each other, and they're really hacking and slashing through dungeons, finding gear together, beating the bosses together. And it's really a lot of fun. The best way to experience, though, is to actually get in a dungeon and check it out. So I'll get into one right now.
Let's go take a look.
Now, one cool thing about it, obviously it's a PC game, so the default controls are PC, but it's not keyboard, but it's not your normal WASD setup. It's actually it's built for speed, it's built for fighting. So you move your character with the directions, and with your left hand is all your attacks, your normal attacks, your special skills, everything like that. But it has been optimized for use with any PC gamepad. So if you're comfortable with a controller, you can use your Xbox 360 controller, Logitech, do anything you want like that, and you have the full range of options. So in this outer hub world, fully 3D, cameras wide open, you can zoom in and out, do anything you want. Once we get into a dungeon, though, the cameras are actually locked. And you'll see why. It's simply because there's just so much going on in a dungeon, it would be impossible to ask someone to control the camera as well. So you get in a dungeon, you get right in, action starts pretty quickly. You'll see your character right here. You can totally outfit him, customize him however you want. This is Angela. She's sort of like the tank, like healer type of character. She's much slower, but she deals a lot of damage. She's the only one with healing abilities, so she can heal everyone on her team. And she's the only true long-ranged character as well. So she has, because she's a witch, she has these long-range magic spells.
How many players in a party?
Up to 4 total. Up to 4 players in a party. It can be any combination of all the players. You can have 4 Angelas if you want. You can have 1 of each. Have an extra one. There's a full PvP too. That's totally optional. If you're a PvP player, they can have up to 10v10, so 20 people total.
So you don't need any specific class makeup to be able to get through the instance dungeons?
You don't. It's not required, but it will make your life easier if you have a nice balance of characters. Because they'll all be able to supplement each other. The other guy's name is, the blonde one, his name is Tude, and he's built for really fast, really close quarters combat. So he gets it and he mixes it up really close, but he takes a lot of damage in doing so. So if you have him and you have an Angela supporting him, you get a really good dynamic, like team-based dynamic. What you saw right there are some of the environmental hazards. This dungeon we're showing right here, the public bathhouse, is the first time, here at PAX 2011, is the first time we've ever shown this dungeon. So you guys are among the first people to actually see it. You see some of these crazy cool skills. Angela does a lot of damage. You see all the loot that gets dropped. You're always getting new loot, whether it's crafting items, Guardians vouchers, which you can exchange it for higher level gear and things like that. In-game gold, HPMP potions. You're always getting a lot of unique loot drops. Now, this room right here showcases the kind of progressive difficulty of the game. As you progress through the game, it becomes a lot harder. You get new bosses, new minions all the time, but some characters that were bosses earlier in the game have now just become normal minions. Like this Hakken character right here. He used to be a boss. That big butcher guy earlier, he used to be a boss. But because it's such a ramp, like it continually gets ramped up, and your player gets stronger, you learn new skills, and the enemies get just as much stronger. So you're always facing newer, evolved versions of enemies, which keeps it really fun.
That would give a lot of satisfaction to a player. A boss that gave you so much trouble at lower levels, all of a sudden is just trash in the dungeon.
It's really kind of jarring the first time you see it, because you remember these bosses and you're like, like that guy gave me a hard time, and then you see him just show up and you're like, what? But then you realize at the same time that you become just as powerful, and your skills are just as evolved. So it's a lot of fun. Now you see some of the unique character moves, like for example, they all have their own unique skills. The skills and the special, like the special attacks that she's using, they're specific only to her. Each character has their own set that they learn from their own specific skill master, who's an NPC in that outer world. So as you level up, you'll earn access to these new skills, and you'll earn skill points as well, which you'll spend to actually acquire them.
So you mentioned customization earlier. What are some different ways in which players can customize their particular character from everyone else's?
It's a very good question. What I call it form and function. There's two ways to do it. One is form, one is function. Function is like all the gear, right? So there's two things you can equip on your character: gear and costumes. Gear does not change your look at all, but it changes all your stats. So if you're looking for a character that's more that has more physical damage, or deals more physical damage or more magic damage, you'll always be on the lookout for gear that has those higher stats. Now, conversely, there's all the costumes too. Costumes is what actually changes the look of your character. So we see Angela right here. This is definitely not how she normally looks. She has this cool new blue haircut. She has this awesome crafted weapon, this cool skirt, all that stuff. Just through questing, you're always getting new costumes, and you're always finding new pieces of gear, new ways to outfit your character. So you're really able to set yourself apart pretty quickly.
Is there any way to customize specific characters for different play styles, or is that what the different characters are for?
That's what the different characters are for. So Tude will always be the close quarters combat guy. Franz will sort of occupy like the mid-range and limited magical abilities, and Angela's always going to be the witch healer. Now the reason for that is it's not your traditional MMORPG where you build your character from the ground up, is because it's a very narrative-based, very story-driven game. So these three characters actually occupy personalities in this world. So their stories progress, and they grow throughout the whole narrative and the whole campaign. So it's really cool. They all have their own personality. What I love about the game is that it really doesn't take itself too seriously. You see these really funky enemies, and they're a lot of fun, but the dialogue and the cutscenes and between all the NPCs, really tongue-in-cheek sometimes, really fun. It really keeps it fresh and exciting, and players have really appreciated that so far. Now we're in the boss room right now. Each dungeon has a boss at the end, true old-school brawler style. Some bosses are super difficult. They might have some sort of pattern of attack that you have to pick up on, or some unique way to kill them. There's actually two bosses in this room. One is that one that I just beat. One is another one. We're in the bathhouse, so he's in this kind of like little bath pool area. Now, because it's filled with water, I'm much slower. I'm very sluggish right now. But there's some sort of puzzle-ish type of elements in the game. There's this lever up here. If I pull it, it'll drain the water, and then I'll be fully ready to go. Now, an NPC can go back over there and fill the water back up, but hopefully by that time you've beaten the boss. Nice, there you go. So at the end of each dungeon, you get graded at the end of each dungeon, and that goes towards an EXP bonus. Your grade depends on your style points, which is like how many chain hits, how many combos you're able to put together, and how much damage you took. So if you got a high amount of style and a little bit of damage, you're going to get a really good grade. Let's see what I got. I got an A, so it's pretty good. There's A, B, C, D, and F, and there's S, double S, and triple S being the best. And that goes towards your EXP bonus. Also at the end of each dungeon is this little loot card mini game. So some of the enemies, I was lucky enough to pick up these loot cards. So you see this face-down deck of cards. They all contain some sort of, like a little bit of gold. But somewhere in here are 2 bronze-level pieces of gear, a weapon or some kind of item like that. So I'll choose one at random, hopefully get it. I didn't get it, but you do have a chance to reselect. If you didn't get it, and I'll try a new one, I didn't get it, so that's where they were. Now, it's a cool way to get some good gear at the end of a dungeon, but what's really fun about it is if you're in a party, and again, parties can be up to 4 people, everybody pulls from that same deck. Everyone sees the same thing. So it's this cool like little scramble at the end of a dungeon to try and get the good stuff, because whoever gets it gets to keep it. You also saw another thing that's pretty random, and I'm glad you got to see it, was that dead man's chest. Sometimes at the end of a dungeon, it'll show that skeleton, place the chest somewhere in the dungeon, and you'll have the ability to go back and find it. Normally give you some really good stuff.
So with the free-to-play aspect of it, how is that going to work? Are you going to have an item shop? What sort of things are you going to have in the item shop? And how are you going to implement that into the game?
You're right, it's an item shop. Most of the items in the item shop are customization items. So different pieces of clothing, things like that. There are HP, MV potions, some temporary status boosters, everything like that. Vast majority of the items you can get just through questing. It might just take you a little longer. For example, I mentioned the potions, right? So you can buy potions in the shop. But if you play PvP, you can acquire PvP points, and you can trade those to an in-game NPC for those potions and stuff. So it's a way for someone that doesn't want to pay to get the cash shop items just through playing the game. So it's really keeps it fair, keeps it balanced, makes everybody happy.
Can you give us some example of the unique items that you said most of the stuff you can get through questing? What are some of the things that you can't get through questing?
Some of the seasonal costumes, some seasonal promotional costumes you can't get. There are the few temporary status boosters, like there's one that gives you 10% EXP bonus for a short amount of time. Those are there for people that may not be able to play as many hours as the people that that have enough time to play, so they want to get up to speed as quickly as they can.
So you get home at the end of the day, boot up Rusty Hearts. Which character do you choose, and what's the first thing that you do?
Me personally, I like Franz. He's the leader of the group. He's a really cool guy. Personally, he's a half human, half vampire hybrid, and he's the one leading these characters in this revolt against Lord Vlad. Lord Vlad is the leader of the vampire armies, and he's trying to rid the world of these hybrids and humans. So all our heroes come together in this town, the city of Brahminez, and they join the militia and they start fighting back. As the story progresses, you learn a lot more about why France is actually there, which his intentions are much different than everyone else. But I love his playstyle because he's a combination of like mid-range sword combat and some mystical abilities too. He has this really great dodge where he'll actually vanish for a moment and reappear on the other side of the screen. Really powerful if you can use it and time it right. I like him. He's just a good all-around character. A lot of people love Angela. They love the healing aspects of her. There's a really good Tude crowd too that just love the really fast-paced, like beat-em-up style. So there's something for everybody. I'm a Franz guy though.
So what's your favorite dungeon to go into?
Good question. There's one, my favorite boss is one called the Crab King, and he's kind of an early boss. But what he does, he doesn't run around anything like that. He's this big crab. He comes out of the sewers, and wherever he goes, there's these levers that you can pull, and these levers shoot this sort of like freezing laser at him. But you can also be in the way of that laser. You got to hit it and then get out of the way, and it'll freeze him. Then you can deal damage to him. He's just like this big epic monster, and you're always looking up at him. It's one of the first bosses I really had trouble with, so I got respect for him.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time, and can't wait to play some Rusty Hearts. Thank you.
If you want to get in the closed beta, go to rustyhearts.perfectworld.com and you can get right in.
Thank you very much.